It's time again for the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast with Dr. John Dentico. The mission of our podcast is to provide 21st century leadership training for a talent-driven world. We help organizations implement strategies and practices designed to attract, hire, engage, and retain top talent while mitigating the effects of burnout. Our guests are experts in various fields of organizational dynamics, including, but not limited to, leadership, management, communication, and coaching. They bring a world of knowledge and solutions to our viewers and listeners. I am sincerely grateful for their participation and ideas. So let's dive in. And if you enjoy our podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. We genuinely appreciate your support. Hello again and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. John Dentico. Today I am joined by Rusty Fulling. Rusty is the founder and CEO of Fulling Management and Accounting Incorporated, based in Olathe, Kansas. With over 2 decades of expertise, Rusty helps business leaders get clarity, grow profit, and gain peace of mind. Rusty seamlessly integrates mentorship, storytelling, and humor into his leadership philosophy. Beyond the professional realm, he's a dedicated family man, celebrating over 32 years of marriage with his wife, Pam, and loves hanging out with his 2 daughters, son-in-law, and granddaughters. And I'm very pleased that he has joined me here today. Rusty, how are you today?
Great. Thanks, John, for having me on. I appreciate the invite.
Oh, you're most welcome. Most welcome. Let's dive in. Rusty, I was attracted to something you wrote in our workup before the podcast. You spoke of new models of leadership. Can you explain what you mean by that and perhaps provide a definition or something that people can hang their hat on?
Yeah, well, I think leadership constantly evolving, and I'm always learning from other leaders as far as just new ways of doing things. In fact, I was with a leader this morning, and he was talking about 20 years ago, if you speak this you did then, audience today, you're going to be out of business quick. And so I think it's always and so we've identified, I think, just 5 lessons over the years that we've picked up just in that process. And happy to walk through those today if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead, right ahead.
It's just being watching these companies that early on develop their mission, their values, their vision, and all times those are just pieces of paper that get stuck up on a wall or words to these sound grandiose. It's really taking those serious and applying those. And so being intentional about that. I was with a young business leader just a little bit ago at lunch and about some of those. What's the end look like? Oh, I'm just trying to get this thing started. The end is too far. And it's funny, thinking about the early days, being so intentional about getting started well, we often forget about finishing well. And I think being intentional all through those seasons of business is just so critical.
Great. One of the focal issues these days, for me anyway, and my work and my practice, is attracting, hiring, engaging, and retaining talent.
Yeah.
Organizations are struggling with these issues.
Yeah.
In your travels, do you come into contact with these issues? Do you see this in terms of the people that you work with? And how would you advise leaders on takes today to hire, retain, engage top?
Yeah. Well, I'd go back to that being intentional. One of the things we've seen is being very transparent about our values and our vision and even mission can be very attractional to talent. And so, again, they'll just stick that in a back page of their website. But boy, that can be extremely helpful. I think also being very transparent about who you want to have join. Sometimes we're just looking for a warm body. Those don't last very long. And so just like we might identify our ideal client, we also should be identifying our ideal team player.
Oh, I absolutely agree. In fact, one of the things that I've discovered in my research over the course at least the last year or so is that values alignment is extremely important. I call it the number one.
Yeah.
The number one is people want to know that you care about the same things they care about.
Yeah.
Are your values aligned? And what's funny, last week I was thinking about this, just as you said. And I thought if someone comes into your establishment looking for a position or an opportunity
Yeah.
and your values don't align, that's okay too.
Right.
That's fine. It's in the long run, it's better for that person and for the organization to say, we can't mate up here. This is not going to work for us.
Right.
So I absolutely agree with you. I think it's very important to get the person that you say, hey, you know what? We've got a real great shot at keeping this
Yeah.
relationship going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely. The things, John, along that line that we found helpful is we would do different serving events throughout the year. So maybe giving to a charity that the company or the owners are passionate about. And one of the things we did a couple years ago is develop what we called a generosity challenge within our organization. And what's really neat about that is not only do we now get to give and serve in companies that we're passionate about as a company, but our team members get to select companies that they're passionate about, and we get to actually join them in that process. And again, part of that joining mission, that's aligning together and not just you got to follow the company policy, whatever it is.
No, I agree. I think, and that's a wonderful thing to do. I had a guest on not too long ago who talked about actually having a day,
Mm,
and he runs different dental organizations as a dental company, where they have a day where they open the doors and provide dental
yeah.
care, free dental care to veterans.
Love it. Yeah, love it.
And he said it's just incredibly worthwhile, and people in the organization feel as though they're part of something bigger than themselves, if you
Yes,
will.
yes.
So I absolutely agree with that. I wanted to ask you this next question, which I think it'll lead us down to some different paths. You speak about the value of being patient
Hmm.
and growing at one's own pace.
Yeah.
Can you give me and my listeners and viewers some ideas about why being patient matters?
Yeah, I think that lesson I would say is that be patient. That's something that it's so until something hits the fan, and then it's like, okay, let's see it in action. And things that I've seen so many over. It's easy to compare ourselves with others, and they are so many ahead of me. Well, sometimes it takes time to get there, and in today's world, when we want it now, boy, we forget the person that's 10 steps ahead of us maybe started 20 steps behind us, years ago and had done a lot of work to get there. And so I think just being reminded of that. I think the other thing is being reminded of our gifting, our individual gifting. So wrapped up in, well, that John does so well. He's got a podcast. He's doing this leadership thing. He's got the name doctor in front of his name. I mean, that guy's amazing. And you know what? Sometimes we have our own giftings and we can't always look at the other person. I wish I was just him. So leaning into our own giftings, I think can also be part of that patience. And in that consistency in the day to day is really where that momentum is found. And so it's
I can't tell you how many times I've had guests on, great guests,
yeah.
and we've talked about this idea of
Mm,
authenticity,
yes,
being authentic, being real, the difference between going to work and saying something like, I got to put my game face on now.
yeah,
I got to be a different person here when I'm
right,
here at the work, as opposed to saying, listen, when I'm at work, when I'm at home, when I'm at church, for example, if
yeah,
that's appropriate,
yeah,
I'm the same person all the time. And I think that's so important for people to understand it's okay to just be yourself, travel your road, and get there when you need to get there. And or when the time is, and the
yeah,
time may be different for you than it
yeah.
is for other people. Any thought, reflections?
Yeah, I love that. Joy is found in the path and not the destination, and it's through those patient steps along the way. Is I think that's where, boy, I think can miss that if we're so focused on I've got to get to that, that final resting place, which that may not be the best for everyone. So
Yeah. And a lot of times, a person who's propelled by that,
yeah,
it's just a matter of, okay, you've reached that milestone. Now what's on? We're on to the next milestone.
that,
Instead of saying, hey, maybe I should enjoy it here a little bit and just take it in.
exactly.
So I
Yes.
agree. I think it's important
Yeah.
for people to understand you're only in a race with yourself
Yes. Yes.
and not with everything else that's out there. Just
Yeah.
take your time. The tortoise does win. I think you said that earlier. The
That's right.
tortoise does win, and you
Yeah.
just have to be a bit patient. I want to talk about something that I know is important to you, and I
Yeah.
think this again will take us in a path that I think is really important, and that is this idea of lifelong learning.
Hmm.
I consider myself a lifelong learner. I'm still learning. I have said on numerous occasions that I get more out of the podcasts than I think most of my listeners or viewers do. I've learned so much over the course of the time that I've been
Yeah.
podcasting from different people like
Yeah.
yourself and all the wonderful guests I've had. Um, can you give me some reasons why lifelong learning is important to you?
Yeah. First 10 years are just putting along, and it's about 25 years here. And say the learning was limited. I think we were just let's just work and it was very very slow going. I think it was about year 11, 10 or 11 that reading. And boy, just reading can just open up a whole new world of creative ideas and challenges from growth and there's so many things that can come out just picking up a book and diving in. And I think that was just a personal experience, but watching those people, I heard the CEOs read an average of 6 a year, and I thought, oh my, bet on that if that's the case.
Right.
But even reading 12 books, something, just get that going, get that mind stimulated. I think that along with podcast events, just being challenged by other leaders, watching other leaders, learning from other leaders in that mentor mentee relationship.
I'll tell you an interesting thing. When you've talked about lifelong learning here in terms of almost the business side,
Mm,
but I'm now very much interested in lifelong learning of other things in
mm,
your life besides business.
yeah.
And what we're starting to understand in terms of burnout
Mm,
is that energizing the creative energy of an individual is a sure way to help mitigate the effects of burnout. That
yeah.
if you go and if you participate, if you take a cooking class, if you do a local archaeological dig,
Yep.
if you go and watch a show on famous paintings or go
Right.
to an exhibit on paintings,
Yeah.
all of this is a way in which you can energize the creative side,
Yeah.
which is
Yep.
a correct remedy designed to mitigate burnout.
Yeah. Great examples. I think of even last summer, I had a friend invite me on a hike. Well, and hiking, and I do not like heights. So my natural answer, I ended up joining guys, went out to Mount Zion and Bryce Canyon and just amazing. And that's just stretching outside your comfort zone sometimes, whether it's a cooking, a hike, or a camp. You're exactly right. Boy, a rich time, as far as just learning something new, experiencing some new.
One of the most brilliant one liners I've ever heard was the more you study something, the more, let me say it again differently. The more deeply you study something, the more you see its connection to everything else. And I've never forgotten that. And I
Mm,
absolutely believe in that.
yeah,
So if you're thinking about, if you're out looking on a hiking trail,
yeah,
do an archaeological dig, whatever it is,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're going to see its connection to the main portion of your life.
Hmm.
And I think that's so important for people. It gives you perspective.
Yeah.
It gives you a sense of, hey, I'm not just this one person doing
Yeah.
jobs every day, holding down
Right.
a living. So I think
Yeah.
that's incredibly important.
Yeah.
And I agree, lifelong learning is cool. I never stop learning, whatever it might be. Fixing a dishwasher.
Yes. Yes.
My favorite television show is the British show, The Repair Shop.
Okay.
And I look at them, consider myself a DIY guy, do it yourself. And I look at myself and say, I'm a handyman. Those folks are craftspeople. They are brilliant. The stuff
Yeah.
they do is just beyond brilliance.
Yeah.
And watching the show, as I do habitually, just really opens your eyes
Mm.
to how creative people can be and
Yes.
how they've taken their lives in different directions that
Yeah.
most people would consider different, but
Yeah.
how successful they've been at it. And it's really a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this question. Suppose one of your clients came to you and said, look, Rusty, I'm having a problem here with people burning out. And this is another issue that I'm really
Yeah.
concerned about. I don't know what to do.
Hmm.
And any ideas? How can you help me? Maybe get over, you know,
Yeah.
apply something that's going to help them and help me at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think in a lot of those situations, I don't know that you come with um, advice as much as you do probably clarify and diving into the and so I don't know that there's a one size fits all. So I would definitely more in a diving deep, tell more about the situation and specific. And I think I will share an example, some things around that. In fact, a conversation I had this morning. They were fighting some, I don't know about burnout, but just feeling like overwhelmed workload. And one of the things we talked about, okay, in the next 30 days, how can you create margin within your schedule? And that was just a practical application. Is can you do it today? Probably not. Your schedule's jam packed. But boy, if you're 30 days out, if you could do 60 days out, but margin is so important, and I think that's part of fifth lesson that we learned was talking about being still and finding times to create margin and just being intentional about that, because sometimes we just feel like we're go 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 and we don't get to reflect and really develop that vision for the future and really recharge during those seasons.
I agree. I've always thought that people are you can be over energized.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
You have to take time to take a step back and just
Yeah.
think, just take it all in and say, let me see if I can work through this
Yeah.
with your favorite beverage or whatever. To just to sit back and try to take it all in. And I think the more quiet you are, the more still you are, if you're able to keep that for a period of time, it will come to you.
Yeah.
It will arrive. Answers go up. And you got to let the subconscious do its job.
Yeah.
In
I think,
fact, it's fun.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there's a great quote I'd heard from a leader that talked about new pace plus new space equals new perspective. And so your pace, maybe you can get into a new space, step outside, get on a walking trail, somewhere new. And just sometimes those changes can really create some new perspective, whether it's, hey, I'm dreaming about something new, or whether it's, man, I just need to detox off of this crazy hamster wheel I've been on. So new pace plus new space equals new perspective.
What's funny you should say that. I've always thought that my best thoughts come to me when I'm behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sat down one day and said, why is this? Why do these great ideas come to me?
Mm,
And I think this psychologist may write
yeah.
me letters, I don't know, is that your conscious mind is
Mm,
concerned about driving. You're
mm,
watching the road, you're watching the cars in front of you, the lights, all that stuff, while your subconscious mind is noodling away.
mm,
And I think that so you've got your conscious mind
yeah.
occupied, but you've also given space to your subconscious mind to
Yeah.
work through this stuff and say, did you think about this? How
Yeah.
about this line? How about this beginning to this article you're writing?
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. So I found that to be
Yeah.
really, really interesting.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely see some value in that. Yeah, as you're talking through that, I was just thinking about even being out on a walking trail with a friend. A lot of times you're facing forward, looking at the trail ahead. It opens up the conversation in places not if you were looking directly into somebody's face. It just changed again that describing there. So
I agree. We're getting close to the end, so I'd like to ask you my favorite last question, and that
okay,
is, are you ready?
you bet, you bet.
Okay. So if you had a magic wand
Yeah.
and you could change anything out there in the world, in your profession or whatever, and why did you choose that?
Yeah, the magic wand question. Oh boy, I think it is probably being slow to speak and quick to listen. If I were to summarize it in one uh, sentence, there, I think sometimes just staying curious and asking more questions can often keep us from without jumping ahead. And let me tell you how to fix your problem. Well, I didn't have a problem. I just wanted to talk about this issue. So probably that slow to speak and quick to listen, I would say would be my magic wand if I had one.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because the leadership model I developed started 30 years ago is
Yeah.
based on one foundation, and that foundation is simply contribution.
Yes.
Okay, here it is. Here's the problem.
Yeah.
And this is not to rattle off the
Yeah.
things that you would do. And
Right.
then you say, okay, now what? And everybody goes, you've already decided.
Right. Right.
No,
Yes.
it's put the problem in front of the people and say,
Yeah.
here's the problem. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Got any
Yeah.
ideas? I'm open. And and then, as you say, be still,
Yeah.
relax. Just let's see what happens. Let's see where it comes from.
Yeah.
And I think that is much more of the leadership perspective I see going forward. Because the number two factor, I didn't mention this to you, but I'll mention it now. The number two factor that people are really concerned about in the skill talent pool is they want to be involved in the decision making processes of the organization. They want to matter, and they want their and you've got to open the opportunity for them to
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. Purpose. Boy.
Purpose. And it's important, really important.
Yeah.
So, Rusty, listen, thank you so very much for being a guest today. I appreciate it. I really thought you brought a lot of valuable insight to the podcast and hopefully to the listeners and to the viewers.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you having me.
Oh, and thank you so much for being here. So I wish you all the success in the future. And to all my listeners and viewers, this is John Dentico saying, remember, leadership is what people do together. Thank you so much.